government says that there will be an increase in cost of electricity in the coming months. Are we going to breathe? Now, speaking at a conference in Tanzania, President Tinubu's special advisor on energy, Oluvehejen, explained that electricity prices must rise to attract private investment and improve service delivery.
Now, here's what you should know. The federal government says electricity rates must rise by an estimated 2/3. The government is working on a $32 billion plan to expand Nigeria's electricity access. The federal government also says higher tariffs will help fund the power sector and reduce blackouts.
Now, it's also important to mention that this warning comes less than a year after a 300% tariff hike. And Nigeria's power sector struggles with low supply despite the country's 14 gigawatts installed power. Siemens is partnering as well with the federal government on a $2.3 billion project to improve transmission. And the federal government says subsidies will protect low-income consumers. Joining us to speak more to this and talk about the implications of this planned tariff hike and Nigeria's power situation is the former chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Dr. Sam Amadi. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, thank you.
All right, this planned tariff hike has already started to garner reactions. There's a possibility of protests that will be coming on by the NLC. They've announced their planned protest. Whilst they say on the one hand that they're looking to attract more investment and they need to be able to balance production, is there not a higher possibility that this tariff increase will send a lot of businesses, small and medium, into extinction?
Well, there is. This is a problem. The fiscal regime of government means that, or the monetary policy this time around, means that the prices, the cost of production has gone up. That's one basic fact. So electricity assets are purchased in dollar, even though we have a policy of conversion. But the point is that once there is devaluation of currency, once there's inflation, the implication is that you're going to rebase those costs. So what's happening in the electricity sector is unusual. Usually, when prices increase, there are three things happening. One is either there are new investments that are made which will improve power supply, and then the operators need to recoup those returns. And so you can see small adjustment in prices, in cost. Or there is emergency, let's say, countries with hurricane, and therefore you need to invest quickly to ramp up, to restore the same level of supply, and then those costs has to be approved and somehow amortized with small increases. But what we are facing now is that there is no significant increase coming anywhere. And I've said that before. When this tariff was approved, the so-called band A and B and C, I spoke with some of the NEC officials. I said, look, what we are doing is that the NEC is being forced to respond to the currency crisis, the inflation that's happening, by increasing tariffs without any serious improvement in quality or any new investment. So, yes, it's going to affect small and medium enterprises because the unit cost of energy will go high. And what NEC did the last time was to say it's for those that go band A. But the truth is that almost everybody is being pushed to band A. And I say it was dishonest to say that you should have said, look, we're going to have tariff increase. I did about 2 increases in my own time, but I was upfront clear. I went about the media saying this is the justification, we need to attract investment, blah, blah, blah. So the point here is this is a difficult situation for the electricity sector. Consumers are not going to necessarily see improvement. And the double whammy is that they are those who are, if there's no 24-hour power as expected, they're going to go back to diesel generator, they're going to go back to fuel, and then they're going to also increase their costs. So it looks bad for cost of doing business on the whole, and maybe NEC is planning a circle. They just have to kind of find the money to show off these failing assets, the disclosed operators and so on. At the same time, they want to make sure that people can consume. And again, if these increases keep going up and there are no commensurate improvement in quality of service, it leads to bypassing and theft of power. That's a relationship between increase in tariffs without service matching up with increase in power theft, whether in terms of bypassing or conniving with disco operators to cheat the system. So it's not looking good, and probably inevitable because of the policies the government have taken. But I think NEC should go back and rethink how this will affect different consumer groups, especially middle-small enterprises. They don't have too much, cost margin to internalize this cost without passing it on to their customers. And in many cases, they do just have to go out of business because they have no room to pass on, internalize or externalize those costs.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amadi, for your fine analysis. It seems, NEC, the first line of thinking is let's pass it on to the consumers. And you've said rightly that there's no commensurate improvement in the quality of electricity we've seen. Now, the government seems to be backing NEC. They're saying that there will be subsidies for vulnerable citizens. But based on past experiences, do you trust the government to implement a fair and transparent subsidy system that truly protects low-income Nigerians? Because when it comes to subsidy, what we see is, bags of rice. We don't have light. Don't give me rice. That's what we often get in this part.
Well, I think the reasonable subsidy government will do is to not increase the tariff of the supposed poor consumers. Now, this is a problem because the customer classification is not based on usage, actually, as much as on location. So, for example, you're on band A, band B, and those bands are more or less based on areas that the discos have mapped out. So, if we had real database classification, which means everybody is metered, if you consume below X amount, your tariff rate is X. If you now improve what we call two-tier tariff, so all those who consume less than 100 kilowatt hour per month, for example, that rate, your unit cost can be 20,000. Then if you move to 200, it becomes 25,000. So if you have that kind of system, then they can isolate the so-called poor people and then means test it. So we don't have that data. Now, what's going to happen is that NEC might increase the tariff of some class of band A, for example, leave so-called band B, C, D, but the distribution companies will keep on migrating those people in B, C, D to A to make up their money because the percentage of people who are going to be on A will be limited. So, at the end of the day, really, the poor people get hurt. That's the truth of the matter. Until you have a real data, clear data, and you clearly articulate and have enforcement and retail service level. Now, the other problem that's going to happen is that many states are now taking out themselves from NEC. So the confusion is, can these states subsidize consumers? So when NEC says tariff will increase, is it tariff increasing to those states also that are no longer or somewhat migrating away from NEC control? There is going to be a lot of confusion. But for me, my prediction is that consumers will pay more and probably will not get the matching level of improvement in quality of service. There's no way. The volume of power that's come to the system in the short to medium term is not big.
But that's unfair.
The distribution network is not that big. So we should expect massive improvement in service conditions.
I want to speak to that because that's really unfair. If what you have said is what we experience, where people in the different bands are now moved to band A, meaning that people will have to pay more for the service. Even those in band A are complaining about their epileptic power supply. We're still experiencing blackouts. The grid is collapsing every day. It decides to, have a mood swing. So shouldn't there be penalties if there's an increase in tariff? Shouldn't there be laid down penalties when the distribution doesn't match the expected supply?
Who's protecting the Nigerian consumers?
Sorry, I didn't get that. You say shouldn't there be what?
Penalties, where we see that people are paying for more, they're paying higher tariff, but that the supply is not matching what they're paying for.
There should be penalty, and that's what NEC exists to do. But see the problem. So the point I'm making is this. Every regulatory intervention is matched with the proper data and capability. So this is it now. NEC has punished some people who have egregious violation. But the point I'm making is that it's difficult for NEC to monitor this network perfectly. Again, NEC also knows that these discos are falling behind in revenue. So there's some kind of dead brain here. You know what? We know that they need to make more money because their books are not balancing well. You need to have regulatory integrity. And then the policy side of it should be strong. The minister, everybody should be strong and say, okay, we need to increase the financing of the utilities. But at the same time, we need to be very focused on auditing their revenue. When I was there, a year, 2 years after preparation before I left, that we did 6 months after, we did a snap audit of all the discos and discovered that some of them were overspending, some of them were using the funds to live large, and we penalize them. So audit is the way to go. They must be able to, if they're going to put this increase, they have to improve enforcement. And so far, I don't think that the enforcement level matches the level that we need to put these discos, make sure that the discos game is to increase the revenue all the time. That's how they behave. So I don't blame them. But the work of the regulator is to ensure that there's no windfall. And what I'm saying is that it's the temptation to move people into so-called band A and promising to deliver them more power and not do that is very high. And so what we're going to see is that the discos will probably want to, but the more band A you get, the more tariff increase you get for yourself. But the question is, if you have limited power, let's say 400 megawatts for Abuja, for example, and you put many people in band A, where the power come from? So either you move away power from other citizens and then give those people some power to keep them happy for the band A. So either there's no power increase, but you have done reallocation, and many people who are not on that band A will have a lot of outages, and maybe people on band A will have some, but not enough to justify that. So head or tail, there's a gap here, and that gap is that we must work very hard to improve the sector, increase the revenue that comes through proper management of the revenue change management, and again, improve the quality of power going to the grid. If you have more power, then you can unlock different pricing. More people will take more power to pay more premium. There's some people who still have good enough power to stay at a range where they can afford. If there had been more supply coming in and there's now a tariff increase and a change in tariff from band A to B, then it makes sense that we give people premium and they pay more so that we receive more money and cross-subsidize those who are not going to get premium power, but they have enough power. So let's say everybody gets like a 10-hour, where regulated or 12, 15 hours out of 24. So everybody knows that between this time, there'll be an outage. I will have power between this time. With that, the poor people, the working class people who don't have that money to pay much, may stay comfortable. But what we have is unscheduled, unplanned, and again, low quality power available. So my sense is that this is all done to reflect the current monetary policy, devaluation, inflation has eaten up or increased the cost of business, and NEC has to reindex those costs to allow this entities to be in power. But the problem is, should be honest. I said, look, we have a financial headwind we are facing. We need to rescue this sector. We need to find revenue for them, and therefore the tariffs increase. And then across board, these are the areas of improvement in service, not just hours, but also quality of power, even customer care, customer consultation. There are certain aspects that they can build confidence of customers while they agree to have this, to move towards this hard time. And maybe in 2, 3, 5 months, we have additional 1,000 megawatts into the grid that's able to be served, not just generation, but able to be distributed. And that will get the power average to maybe 5,000, and then you give more hours to those people who are struggling, and then somehow, with more power, you have higher revenue, and maybe at some point the tariffs will drop or at least stabilize. But for now, it's going to be difficult for the sector in the coming months.
Now, Dr. Amadi, you talk about more power, but I believe Nigeria has an installed capacity of 14 gigawatts, but it's only 4 to 5 gigawatts reaching end users. What does this say about Nigeria's power efficiency? And you also talked about, the power sector feeling the effects of devaluation and all of that. The Nigerian people have a threshold. They've already passed on the cost to them in pricing of food and other services. There's also talks of a 50% increase in telcos. And now, after a 300% increase in less than a year, the power that the NEC is saying they want another increment. I mean, there's only so much the average Nigerian can take. So my question to you is, how can government improve energy efficiency? Where should they focus their reforms on? And what's a win-win scenario for you in all of this, in very simple terms? Thank you.
Well, I think you got it right. There's everywhere the people get more hit. Again, increase in tariff will also increase cost more inflation on basic goods and services, except some happens. Again, what can government do? I think the critical thing here is maybe find what can drive down the cost of energy. Thankfully, Dangote, I had a former conversation, Dangote is trying to come down. So assuming, because all those fits into the cost of everything. So what we can do at this point is to find a way, maybe change this policy of currency devaluation. I think if you do a managed float that perhaps brings dollar to naira to, let's say, around 700 or 800 or thereabout, then you might see a quick reduction in tariffs, because those tariffs index those changes in cost. That's one aspect. So policy-wise, government has inflicted harm, maybe for good reason, let's hope, but so far, those reasons are not coming forward. That's on the policy side. I think on the regulatory side, if NEC manages very well, they could drive down the cost. There are still levels of inefficiency in the operation of these utilities that they can reduce costs, they can reduce wastages, reduce corruption. Then you can see maybe some degree of drop in their cost. When the cost drops, then it goes back to consumer. Again, I think the governors, state governors, should be very quick to see if they can do renewable energy. I mean, there is a provision for feed-in tariffs, for distributed generation, embedded generation. So far, the states are not aggressive in supplementing the available power, because if you have some states create some modular power, then the cost of dropping it in their states less, and they can see more power at cheaper rates in some states than others. So we need to do a couple of things. Unfortunately, the policies and the capabilities do not match the level of crisis that we're facing now. And in my own sense, that the regulator, the Ministry of Power can do a lot to see if they can reduce by cleaning up the data sets, ensuring that there are no wastes, there are no windfalls that are going to this. Look, these companies are also declaring profit every day. So operationally, they're not doing badly. But, financially, but operationally, they're not doing very well. So there's a gap between commercial profitability and operational efficiency. So you have to close that gap and make sure that you reduce the cost and people have better service for less pay. That will happen when you improve the operational efficiency of the utilities.
Dr. Sam Amadi, thank you for joining us this morning. We just wait to see what the impact of this will be. My heart is already beating because I know my estate will soon put a message in the group for all of us to beware.
I mean, we can't take it anymore. Thank you so much for your valuable insights, Dr. Sam Amadi, former chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's now take you through your daily dose of the newspapers to see what the front pages are saying. And we're joined this morning by journalist and public affairs analyst Habeeb Haruna. Good morning. Good to have you.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
We are well, concerning this, looking at this electricity tariff increase. It's like, you look like you're not yet fazed by it. Me, I'm already upset. My heart is beating.
We started with good news of Dangote reducing the price of petrol, and then the electricity people. So you're not winning.
Either way, it's minus, so it feels like minus, because even this Dangote reduction is it's not going to be implemented across board yet, and I think it's still too little for us to see an impact. Then there's electricity tariff hike 50%, telecoms tariff hike 50%. So to be a Nigerian right now, it's just like, I need to go to my every country abroad now.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Habeeb Haruna, for joining us. Let's start with our first newspaper. I believe that's the Daily Independent. The headline is 2025 budget. Estimated 13 trillion funding gap may compound real sector growth. That's a huge amount of money, 13 trillion. The writer says consumers' income erosion may push additional 13 million Nigerians into poverty. This is where you say, God forbid.
God forbid.
Yeah. And there's also CBN reforms improving diaspora remittance. Okay, some good news there. And tax reforms may stimulate growth. Still on the Daily Independent, we have Nigeria strengthens Ebola preparedness as Uganda confirms outbreak. Tariff hike. Telco's subscribers may migrate to Starlink. That's Elon Musk's Starlink as provider launches direct-to-phone service. Interesting developments there. And some sad news here over the weekend. 13 burnt to death in Ondo road crash. We also have on the front page of the Daily Independent, Buhari Tinubu's undemocratic credentials have taken the APC to early grave, says ex-APC vice chair.
All right, let's move away from the Daily Independent now and see the Nigerian Tribune, what's on the front page. The Nigerian Tribune big story this morning says, looking at 2027, Northern Leaders Coalition proponents write off PDP. That's on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. There's some riders. Do we have the Nigerian Tribune? Yes, thank you. The riders there, we see ex-military leaders offer stakeholders endorse coalition. Proponents may announce new platform late February. Leaders yet to agree on presidential standard bearer. LND playing lead role, sources say. Tinubu not worried by gathering of opposition. That's according to the presidency. Now the sad news, 30 passengers burnt to death in Ondo crash. Lagos speakership, Tinubu not reinstating Obasa, according to his source. So that drama is still ongoing.
We saw that rumor, so we would like
last week, to speak to it. Middle-aged man killed in Ibadan. Police launch manhunt for killers. No positive orders made on court processes to bind banks or GHL. This is according to GHL. And then we have at the top of the paper, FBN, why banks cannot comply with order lifting restrictions on GHL's account. This has been a case that has been ongoing, and it's interesting to see, the turnout. Maybe we'll speak to it at some point, but let's bring you this day newspaper.
Yes, this day, the front pages says First Bank admits defeat in Mariva case, 6 appeal without due process. GHL sees desperation. So we see a lot of this GHL and First Bank issue in the front pages of lots of papers. Court stops custom from collecting excise duty and non-alcoholic carbonated drinks, declares Ministry of Finance circular null and void, and stops customs from collecting transport feeding allowance from NECA. There's also another headline there. Oando releases 2024 financial results, gross revenue to 4.1 trillion. And trade war, Canada, Mexico, China is set to retaliate Trump's sweeping tariffs. I hope those tariffs are coming.
This tariff matter is really getting...
And some good news for the entertainment sector. 2025 Grammy Awards. Thames wins Best African Music Performance. I remember Olive doing an interview with Thames so many years ago. She was a producer then. I mean, who would have imagined that in less than a decade, she will be a Grammy Award winner.
I think that's really a sweet spot, and getting to see her celebrating with her mother. She took her mother to the Grammy Awards, and that was such good news. Anyway, let's move away from the good news and come back to the reality of Nigeria. Let's speak to the tariff hike. The front page of the Daily Independent talks about how telco subscribers may migrate to Starlink. And this is on the front page of the Daily Independent. So let's talk about, what you think about the tariff hike. Is there any way we could have gone around this? Because it's been a tough time for Nigerians. The average Nigerian citizen is trying to make ends meet. So now they are dealing with 50% tariff hike. They're dealing with electricity hike. Is there any way that we could have gone around this without having to push the burden to the Nigerian consumers?
And bear in mind that the minimum wage has not been implemented in quite a number of states, and salaries are not also increasing. So the average Nigerian, like Olive said, is in a very tough place.
Yeah, you also add that people that are retired and are collecting pensions and gratuity.
Oh, wow. Thanks for that.
Yes, my younger brother retired last year, still waiting for his gratuity and pension. Can you imagine that?
See,
and in some decent and normal countries, once you retire, it's automatic.
It's immediate. Yeah, because you have to.
It's automated and your money will be given to you. But in Nigeria,
embarrassing.
People that served Nigeria for 35 years.
Sometime last year, we went to cover an event, the breakfast team, and on our way back in Lagos Island, we saw senior citizens carrying placards asking for their pensions to be paid.
It's not good.
They were standing in front of a certain bank in Lagos Island. You probably already know.
It's not a good development. But having said that, back to the issues you raised. You see, I foresee a situation whereby this tariff hike will not abate for now. It will continue. This government met a mess. There's no money. Government must look for revenue to consummate its agenda and programs. So they must look for the money. And that is why they are increasing their tax net. People can pay their taxes. They cannot continue to subsidize these things. That's the reality.
I mean, that's understandable.
No, I'm coming. I'm doing the contest.
Yes.
They cannot continue to subsidize electricity, fuel, and other things that they are subsidizing. And that is the reality. But you see, my problem is that government must have a human face. They must put human face to it. Yes, we know that you are looking for money, but people are suffering. Hardship is becoming too much. My brother, government job and duty, responsibility is to provide for the people. Just mention something now, you saw some elders, they call it seniors in some countries, carrying placard. These people serve Nigeria with their best. Now they've retired. You're not paying their money. And someone will now tell you that government borrowed the money. How can you borrow pension money? How can you borrow pension money? But it's not, it's everywhere. People that serve, even the military. The military people have to go outside out there late last year, to protest for their money were paid. So I think all these things we need to situate it within a context. Yes, we are broke. Government is broke. We are increasing tariff on electricity. We are increasing tariff on the telecoms. At the same time, and there's no, as you said, there's no any corresponding increase in when workers are taking home. So this thing cannot work that way. I don't feel that one day.
But there's a trust deficit between the government and the people. They see the government spending.
That is the point.
They see the optics that these people haven't.
No, that is a major point to address.
They haven't tightened their belt, and you're telling us to do all these things. So there's revenue leakage in some places.
Apart from
some people are not paying taxes.
Yes,
they're not billionaires and rich people. So it's a good thing that we're looking at the tax reforms. But is there any way, you said government should always put a human face to its reforms, that there will be a corresponding tightening of belts from their side, and the Nigerians will understand that, look, we're all in this together.
The sad thing is that Labour has been decimated. Labour is not strong enough to genuinely fight for the rights of Nigerians.
So that is, this year's strike is waste of time.
And that is why government is having a field day. You know, it's possible that these Labour leaders have been compromised. Or if they are credible, and look at ASU, anytime ASU cries out, the government will sit up. But these are credible leaders. But Ajero and his gang, I don't know what they are doing. Because if Ajero is somebody that is serious and his people, government will not just take us for a ride. You know, government, you are doing your own job, but Nigeria, you cannot slap me and tell me not to cry. It's a natural cause. So when I'm suffering, I'm going to let you know that I'm suffering. So government will try as far as possible to put human faces to it. The issue you raise is very cogent and very, very instructive. You know, when you are telling us to tighten our bed, and we see you, the way you are living, your way of living, the way you exhibit wealth, we're not going to wonder, are these people sacrificing for the country? Are they sacrificing for the country? They are not doing that. You know, we are removing subsidies, and our debt portfolio is rising. Can you remember say, we are removing subsidies, so there should be money on the table. There should be money on the table. Mm-hmm. So where is the money going?
And what's the benefit of being a Nigerian? We used to enjoy cheap petrol prices.
Yeah.
If you go to Venezuela, an oil producing company, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So what exactly do we gain?
Now that we are suffering, sacrificing for it, what are they doing with the money?
And you know what's even worse? What's even worse is the fact that even if the quality, of life is improving, you can say, okay, we're spending more, but we're seeing a commensurate increase. For example, in other countries in the West, they're paying a lot in taxes, but they can see where their taxes are going. Their infrastructure, the roads, the transport system, healthcare. In Nigeria, which one can we point to? Let's hear from Kolawole, who's calling. Good morning, Kolawole. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Kolawole.
Please go ahead.
Of February, Valentine month. You see the Labour people, they are just playing politics. If you go to the Nigeria port, there are people, dock workers working there. They are not on nomination for retirement. None of them know that they are not on nomination for retirement. Labour is not dealing with that. Majority are casual workers. They are just playing politics. What concerns them about increase in tariff of electronic media provider? Everything in the country is up. The telecoms, they need to provide necessary, adequate, and efficient communication to all. Like me now, I have dropped the Nigeria Electricity Corporation, all these PCSs that have changed to solar. Since March last year, I don't use NEPA in my house. I use solar. Very soon, one of them will come back and beg us. All these people that government have at the back psychologically bought all these companies from themselves and they are draining us. Very soon they will come and beg us. When people change, all these electricity people will come and beg. But the media people, the communication people, they require increase in the tariff because we know all what is going on. The labor people, they don't need all that. They are just paying positive. Let them go to where I'm saying. I'm talking about at the Nigerian port. Majority people there, they are not of pension. They are casual workers. They should fight that. Let them go to free trade zone where the Chinese lock up our people. All the days they will not come out of the factory. They will be working. And they are not remunerated very well. That is the work of the labor, not all this propaganda.
Yeah, you've really painted a picture. Thank you so much for calling. Thank you for contributing to the conversation this morning. He has painted a dire picture, but that's the reality of what Nigerians are experiencing today. You know, I'm even still seeing on the front page of the newspaper, Daily Independent talks about how consumers' income erosion will push additional 13 million people
to poverty. And these are the issues we need to discuss. I want to ask Mr. Haruna. Kolawole raised a point there when he said, you know, since last year it's disconnected from NEPA or
many people are switching to solar.
And, you know, people oftentimes commend Nigerians for being resilient, but it's a double-edged sword. It's a good thing. It could also be negative. Nigerians provide their own water supply, boreholes, you know,
security.
They buy SUVs with their own security. And now, I mean, in the newspaper, it said businesses are considering Starlink, Elon Musk. The Starlink, they don't even want to do anything with telcos. And he also mentioned electricity. Are we going to get to a point where people just provide all that is necessary for them?
No, I think the government should be very careful, you know, and be sensitive to the feelings of people on the street. If they are not careful, one day they will see people on the street protesting. And that may lead to a state of anarchy. You know, there's something we raised in your opening remarks, that the government is not communicating well to the people. Why are you going to increase tariff on electricity now? When Band-Aid already, before now, I spent about 30,000 naira per month. Now it's 30 naira for 5 days. Now you want to increase it again. I'm going to cope. If I'm complaining, I'm not the people out there. So I think government is trying to, should not overstretch our patience.
Government should not overstretch.
We are already overstretched.
A good point to just hold on there for a second while we take this quick break. We'll be right back with Breakfast Central after this.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still reviewing the papers, and we have with us journalist and public affairs analyst Habeeb Haruna. Thank you once again for being here. I mean, the bulk of our conversation this morning has spanned the difficulty of being a Nigerian, living in Nigeria at this point. The papers say that CBN reforms are improving diaspora remittance. I don't know what impact you think this will have on the state of the economy with the increase in telco tariffs, the increase in reduction in fuel price, although a number of people wonder what impact that will have, and the likelihood of 13 million people being pushed into poverty. Is this something to maybe smile at? The fact that
absolutely.
tax remittance would increase?
I think it should be encouraged. I think apart from the oil, the money we derive from oil, the dollars, that's the only way we can make money. Sell fuel, that's our sole commodity, unfortunately, till now. After 150 years of independence. So commodity is true oil.
Yet every administration talks about diversification.
Even though we have timber, we have cocoa, we have palm oil, all those things are not, there's not enough aggressiveness.
Mr. Haruna,
to make it grow.
Low, okay, we'll get to that shortly. We have a caller from Abuja. Good morning. Lenny from Abuja. Good morning.
Good morning, Good morning, Habeeb.
Good morning.
I want to talk about this electricity tariff. I want to talk about this electricity
Yes, please go ahead, Lenny.
tariff.
Yes, go ahead.
All right. This government, when they came in, the Band Aid thing came in. They started this Band Aid, so you can buy 1,000 naira for 4 units, right? Now they said they want to increase. They want to increase the tariff. And Nigeria is going to be buying 1,000 naira for 1 unit. They should not come and blame. Now let me paint the scenario. Why the government doesn't care about Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians? If you build a house, you know that you buy a pole. If your house is not close to the pole, you buy the pole, you buy the wires, they will not pay for the NEPA people, the electrical people to come and mount it for you from their office. They will come and do it. Then you now pay for meters by yourself. They will now come and mount it, and you pay people that will come and mount it. Then you will now pay this man. If you know what if you the government doesn't provide water for you in the house, you dig your own borehole. They don't care about anything. Here in Nigeria, if the air we are breathing was taxable, I'm very sure this APC government would have taxed us. Thank you. Have a nice week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lenin. Yeah. So, Mr. Habeeb Haruna, 30 million people might fall into the poverty gap because they said the erosion of their consumer income erosion may push additional 30 million. And where's this erosion coming from, Olive? From all these increases and hikes, they can't even, the statistics say Nigerians spend a huge amount of their income on feeding. It's going beyond feeding.
It's definitely beyond that.
Here and there. What can the government do in the immediacy to stop these 30 million people from falling into poverty? We're not talking CNG, we're not talking rice, because that's the sort of palliative measures we've been hearing. What can they do? Where are the low-hanging fruits?
Is the government even listening? Are they watching? Do they care what people are feeling? That is the question. That is the question. You know, government has a duty to increase revenue. They also have a duty to make sure that people's welfare is what they can take care of. And that is basic. So I think what they can do is to make sure there's money in circulation, to make sure that people's salaries are well paid, possibly increase salaries.
Pensions.
Then the other one is, as I said, the pensioners collect their money. If they collect their money, people's purchasing power will increase. And these guys may not fall into poverty. So the government can do, not necessarily removing subsidies from all these things. And there's a way they can caution, because even advanced countries, capitalist countries,
They still subsidize.
They subsidize.
Yes.
They subsidize food, subsidize electricity, subsidize even fuel. So why are we living everything on pocket forces? When people in Abuja are living large and enjoying free things, you know, and people at the lower key, they are the ones suffering. So that should be a way of...
Yeah, it's part of the conditions IMF gives them to, you know, make life...
And the problem is that the executive policies will have a field day if there is no effective National Assembly legislature to caution them. And there is no labor to say, my friend, if you do it, you'll be on the street. That is it. So Nigerians should cry out. The media too is part of the segment of the society. The media should play its own role.
So every time I hear the Nigerians should cry out, I wonder what that picture would look like. Because Nigerians have been crying. They cried in end bad governance protests. They cried, you know, through all the protests that in a way have even been measured. And we haven't really seen as much impact from this protest. If NLC has talked about another planned protest, but they are protests again.
Don't forget that eternal vigilance is the price you pay for having freedom. You have to be vigilant at all times. Because the government is there to do its own work. We will do our own work by crying out. The government knows that if people cry out, it will be worse. The system will be bad. It will affect the economy to the growth of the country. They will be more circumspect.
The eye that we use for internal vigilance, the eyes that Nigerians use for internal vigilance, they don't use and they cry. And I, when they cry, no, they see them. We have Elder David, I believe, calling. Good morning. Thanks for calling. Please turn down the volume of your TV set and then go ahead with your contribution.
Elder David, I'm afraid we might not be able to take your call because of the quality. You need to turn down the volume of your TV set.
All right, yes, please go ahead now.
Thank you very much. Ajero proposed protest is never justified. Let him check himself. What is he protesting for? The network that are going to increase their distance, they are justified because without that, the banking system is already in distress. What I expect Ajero to be doing, if it's an old man like us who have retired since 1998, we are not getting our pension. You should talk about pensioner. Is it not going to grow old? When Oshimole was there, was fighting righteously for everybody, but instead came here and be playing politics, a member of Labour. And let him get out from there. No Nigerian will support him. Because after transportation, the next one is network. Is it not Nigerians that are working there? When we are talking of 50%, is it too much? Without these people, the banking system will be in distress today. To transfer money and all that, people are kidnapping to carry money. You go to a bank, cannot even get even up to 20,000. Why is it against them? It's a question. It's about the attention. Let him be careful about this government. This government is trying his best for us. Let him not divert their attention. Let him go and protest to support the pensioners. Those soldiers that have died. Those Nigerian Airways staff will not be paid. Keyamu said it when they are part of the Senate committee. And that the money for Nigerian Airways pensioners is with Minister of Finance. That the Minister of Finance is sympathetic with our pay our money. Let me tell Nigerian Airways staff, they are the present driver today. They are the mechanics. They are the ones who are the pilot. We call them drivers on the air. The flight engineer and others are the mechanics. They are crying to him to help us. People are dying. What of the retired soldiers who are not being paid? The same man.
All right. Elder David, thank you for calling. I mean, this just represents what you had spoken to earlier regarding pensioners who are not yet, and I even imagine what they're going through. You know what they're going through. 1, 2. My heart breaks at the idea of what their pension will amount to. The value of inflation, you know, the monies at the time would have amounted to something, but today, inflation has already kicked into.
I don't even know how our leaders, how they think. In Lagos State, where I served, it's not, you don't joke with pensions. Don't joke with their pension. When you retire, they pay you as soon as possible.
My mother served in Lagos State.
So they don't joke with it. I don't know why the federal government will go and borrow money from the pension fund. It's a criminal offense. It's not acceptable. It's not decent. You should not accept it.
I mean, the concept.
When you serve the country,
in other countries,
you deserve your paycheck.
Priority is given to pregnant women and over senior citizens.
And in some countries, once you are 60, as I was last year, when you are 60.
Wow, you don't look.
No, absolutely. I was 60. You know, everything is automatic for you. It's free. You travel, you know what I'm talking about. Even that boss don't pay. Medical service, everything is free. But that is, apart from the fact that you are paid immediately.
Yes.
Your entitlements. But Nigeria, it's not done.
We don't treat our senior citizens well, honestly.
It's not done. It's not. We should make noise. You should shout at the roof. We should stop this nonsense.
Quite a lot to unpack, and thank you so much for your insights.
I was thinking you touch on the Lagos State on the speaker or something.
We'll do that some other time during the week.
Yeah,
thank
we unfortunately
so
have to run out now. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.